Welcome, monster maniacs, for what shall be the penultimate creature feature this season of Monstars of Rock, the LORDI Story. I'm your guide, Matthew Kessie, and on this week's show I'm joined by another presenter, the man of many talents, the cryptid keeper of tales, the voice of the most monstravagant show. It's Nosfer-Ruiz of the Nosfer-Ruiz Horror Show, as he is resurrected for a few moments following his death by the hands of Jane to tell of his sin involvement on Screem Writers Guild.
To start with, you obviously last year, you kind of met up with the band for the first time in quite a while. Obviously with the whole pandemic and everything like that, kind of everyone couldn't meet up, and of course with you being in America, you can't exactly drop everything and go over to Finland on a whim during the pandemic. So you kind of met up with the band, did a couple of the first kind of summer festivals with them as well. So what was that experience, finally going over, meeting up with Mr. LORDI, finally, you two being best buds, and, finally getting to hang with the whole crowd again?
Oh, well, it was definitely cool. In fact, the whole process started in April of 22 when he called me and he's like, "Hey, dude, thinking about starting a new album." And I'm like, "What? Jesus Christ, you just had 7 come out, less than, 5 months." And he's like, "Yeah, record company is starting to, start writing the next one." So, going to April of 2022, I think I'm at a Wendy's, which is, I think you guys got them over there, like McDonald's and Burger King.
Yeah.
I pull over, and he starts talking about this whole horror TV show idea that he has for the next album. Like, oh, all right. So, of course, me being familiar with the TV horror shows here in the States in the 70s and 80s, I'm not even sure really in the 90s, you had people like Zachary and Sven Gulli, and an 80s horror icon, Elvira, used to host late night horror movies.
Right.
So I started thinking about this, and, a lot of times it's Mr. LORDI just throwing an idea out, and I'm like, "Yeah, we'll get back to it." Just throwing it out there, blah, 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 we'll talk later. Okay. So, of course, now I've got it in my head. It might be a couple of weeks, maybe a month before we come back to it. So I'm thinking this is going to be another Ruiz character. So when I first started off, I was like Ruiz the storyteller, just to start fleshing something out. And good evening, and not even, as you've heard by now on the album, where I'm doing this broken Hungarian / broken Bela Lugosi Dracula kind of thing. I was just like, "Good evening, my disciples. It is Ruiz, the storyteller, and we have 12 stories for you tonight." Just starting to flesh stuff out, just to get an idea. So as me and Mr. LORDI start speaking, we could start really honing in on what he wants. So that was back in April. So now, moving on to May of 22, this is when we start talking about me coming over to record. But also now, in May of 22, this is when I get a call from Mr. LORDI saying that he has let Eamon go. And I was completely shocked. I knew there had been some issues, tensions, but I didn't know that this was going to happen. So he called me, told me that he had fired Eamon and that they were looking at another guitar player that they had in mind. So, of course, Mr. LORDI shows me this video of this hot shit kid. The reason why I'm saying hot shit kid, because I know he's goddamn younger than us.
Yeah.
Playing. And I'm like, wow, he really does play well. And I'm like, this would be a definite perfect addition to the band. And it's funny because even Mr. Lordi goes, yeah, you know, in that video I sent you, he had Kiss Alive 1 framed on his wall. So I said, yeah, that earned points right there. So I was like, okay, moving forward with that comes, now we're talking about June. And this is now, I'm going to be flying over to Finland now. Now, this is going to be the first time being in Finland in 3 years. The last time I'd been in Helsinki to record was the voice for Collection, and that was the Mad Rager DJ Ralph Ruiz.
Yeah.
2 years since I'd seen the band. So, yeah, that was, it was so cool to be reunited with everybody.
Yeah.
You know, meeting up with Mr. Lordi at the airport. He was flying in from Rovaniemi. I'm staying at the hotel right by the airport. We're meeting there because Hella is driving, and we're going up to the Rock in the City Festival in Kuopio.
Right.
Which was going to be the first time that the band is playing with Konne. This has already been put out. This is the new Lordi guitar player. So, you know, we're driving up. Oh, yeah, before that, of course, me and Mr. Lordi have the big hug, kiss. Oh, we've missed each other, dude. It was great, you know, getting together again after 2 years.
Yeah.
Getting to Hella's car, giving her a big hug. Hey, it's great. It felt so good to be back in Finland with these guys, especially because of what the world went through the last 2 years. You know, me losing my job, just down in the dumps, feeling shitty, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So this was, and plus me loving touring and traveling, not being able to tour and travel for 2 years, really fucking sucked. So, of course, getting over to Finland, I'm like, cool, we're back. It was just a great overall feeling. So, you know, on the way up to Kuopio, we're all talking and just catching up with each other. We had a couple of hours to wait at the hotel, so hanging out. And then when it's time ready for all of us to meet in the lobby, this is the first time I'm meeting Konne for in person.
Yeah.
And I see this young guy come down, and I was like, look at this young motherfucker. Jesus Christ. Smiling and laughing, I was like, I've heard so much about you, man. I was like, so cool to me. He goes, yeah, I've heard a lot about you, too. And I'm like, oh, excellent, cool. I go, probably a lot of bad, crazy shit. I'm like, it's all true, and you're going to see a lot of it in person, kid. That kind of stuff. So, yeah, that was cool. We're all getting together. Next one who comes out is Mana. So, hug and kiss, grab of his ass, and yes, his ass is still super tight, so that's fast. And then, seeing Hisi, which is funny now. So I'm calling, he's like the new old guy. Yeah. Because, of course, on Collection. And I was like, how does it feel being, somewhat the new guy? And you've already got freaking 9 albums underneath your belt, like in 4 freaking years. Yeah. He's like, it's cool. So, yeah, we all hop in the van. We all hit up to the festival. And then, of course, that's when it all hits. We're backstage. We're meeting up with the crew. They've got their tent. And now I'm really kind of helping out wherever the band needs. And I guess Hella was sort of like the liaison and the head person with the festival. So I'm trying to help her as much as possible because, in an hour or two, they're going to start getting into makeup. So what do you guys need? Towels, blah, blah, blah. Do you need water? What do we need to get, ready for the stage? So that kind of stuff. So that was cool getting back into a production kind of role because I hadn't done it in 2 years. Yeah. 2 or 3 years. So, like I said, it felt good getting back into the swing of rock and roll. What was really cool about it was watching the whole band all excited. Nervous about, of course, the first show with the new guitar player, but all excited because there's new blood in the band, new excitement. The atmosphere is less tense.
Yeah.
It's just a fun atmosphere. And then what was cool is watching how the other three or other four were helping going to get into his costume, making sure that it all works on him. And of course, the funniest thing for me was watching him put in his contact lenses, because he was still kind of new to it.
Yeah.
And just hear him like, trying to get it in his eye. So that was funny. But once he got into costume, it looked great.
Yeah.
And when what was cool is going out in the front, looking at the stage, seeing the stage setup. And one cool spot, there were two people in the audience who, they're big fans, and they're usually on social media. They're a couple.
Yeah, yeah.
So I saw them, they were front row. There was a news reporter and photographer there from the local Kuopio newspaper, so they ended up took a picture of us at the front of the stage, and cool. I've got that on my wall. Now, once again, thank you for sending me that picture if you're out there listening to this interview when it comes out.
That's awesome.
So that was cool.
Yeah.
The first show, standing in front of Gonne, just watching him play, I really blasted a ton of pictures of so they can start pushing it on, on all the LORDI social media. And I just saw the energy and the playing just really, it just amped up the show. And it's definitely no offense and no disrespect to Eamon. It definitely just brought it up to technicality.
Yeah.
Because as even Mr. LORDI said, Eamon was more like the Ace Frehley player, more feel and kind of groove, which was awesome, where Gonne is definitely a lot more technical. He can change his styles a bit easier. And just watching him play, and just his mannerisms, now you got a different character. So, he's not jumping around or doing the chicken dance that Eamon would do, and, the cross or any of that stuff. He had his own robotic kind of jerky motions, and he was working his own style, and that was just great. Just watching that. So I really have to say those two shows were fantastic. And it's hard to be judgmental at times because I am so close to it, but I had to step back. I'm like, okay, if I was a fan, how would I feel about this? And I'm like, and honestly, I was like, this is a step forward. It's a fresh start, and it's just really felt like this is a great new intro to a new character for the band, and just hoping that it just keeps on going. And I think after their tour that they've had and everything coming up, it was great to see him play all the old LORDI stuff, but I was just like, I couldn't wait. And now the world has heard what he can do, because of course the new album is him.
Exactly.
Right after I recorded my parts for Nosfer-Ruiz, Mr. LORDI sent me over a couple of the files of the new album to listen to. So, of course, the first song I heard was Dead Again Jane, and I was like, wow, this song really kicks ass. But what I was looking forward to was the solo, because this is going to be the first time that Gonne has his moment to shine in the band. So I'm listening, I'm waiting, I'm like, all right, kid, all right, come on, you're up next. And then bang, when he started those first fucking notes, I was like, ooh, that sounds good. And then as soon as he did that dive bomb, I got an ultimate stiffy. I was just like, this is good, this is good. I don't know how many times I rewound or, hit playback just to hear that solo. I'm like, finally, man, a really cool, different solo, that's just not like repeating a phrase and then, repeating it an octave higher. There was a lot of technicality behind the solo, a lot of flash, and, it wasn't all over the place that, You know, you couldn't make out what he was playing. It didn't sound like a buzzing bee. It was a really well-crafted solo. It fit that song perfectly. So as soon as I heard that, I was like, yeah, okay, this kid's got it.
Yeah. From you kind of knowing, obviously, Lordi for so long now, and with Eamon obviously departing the band, were you in contact with Eamon since he's left Lordi at all?
No, when I heard that he was fired, I wanted to.
Yeah.
But out of respect and knowing, you know, it's kind of tough. Sometimes in situations like that, you know, he's probably going to have people, hey, look, man, sorry, I heard. You know, you could probably like, oh, fuck off. I don't want to hear any of this right now.
Yeah.
So, I thought I'd just let him deal with his own personal stuff of, you know, being let go, you know, anger, resentment, or just like, I just want to push this shit away. Yeah, I'm gonna reach out to him, but you know, let me give him his space.
Exactly.
Also, too, when Samsa Gita left the band, I gave them their space because I didn't want to be like, oh, you know, sure, I'm not going to talk about the band to either of them, but, you know, in their head, you know, they know I'm still involved with Lordi.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to be in Helsinki. Oh, you must be coming because Lordi's doing something, you know, and I really didn't want to put that in their head, so I just gave him his space. What was cool and sad at the same time, you know, talking about Eamon, was that after the recordings, you know, Kiss played Finland again. I was there with Mr. Lordi, and they moved a little further on down to their seats, and I stopped to get a drink, or I was talking to some fans or whatever, and I saw Eamon, and he was there, and like, you know, he couldn't believe I was there, and I couldn't believe I ran into him, and I'm probably going to choke up here because it was hard seeing him, knowing what just happened.
Yeah.
And I said, no matter what, he goes, we've had many years of fun times. You're in the band or out. You were still a brother. I goes, you know, we met in 2007. And I goes, it doesn't matter about the band. We're friends. And you were still a brother to me, Lordi or not.
Yeah. And
we just hugged. We got a little emotional, and I knew I had to stop right there.
Yeah.
You know, there was nothing else I was going to say that was going to hit the point more than just saying that we were still brothers.
Yeah, yeah.
So
it
was good seeing him, and I think. Yeah, a couple of months later, in fact, I think it was like maybe 2 or 3 months ago, I sent him a text, hey, buddy, how you doing? You know, I hope you're doing well. Hope you're getting back on your feet. You know, I was like, hey, look, you know, that stuff that you did on your, I forgot what the name of his little solo EP was, but I'm like, I hope you continue. Yeah, I'm like, you know, I hope you continue with what you were doing there, because that was really cool. You know, I goes, yeah, I know it might take you a little while to want to pick up the guitar again and get the ball moving. But in fact, he texted me last week. He goes, you know, sorry, I haven't text back. I don't really do that too much, but I'm doing better. I'm looking to, you know, get back into music, and you know, next time you're in Helsinki, let's try to get together. So it was cool to hear from him, and it's good to hear that he's, you know, coming back at his own pace, which is good.
And moving forward as well, then, because it is difficult in many ways. Because like, while I interviewed all of the band members, been talking to Lordi for the last while, and with him leaving, it's obviously a very difficult decision for Mr. Lordi to come to, because he's had Eamon as his companion pretty much in the band for 25 years pretty much, but with him going, Kone coming in, there's this new optimism, this new air of positivity around the band, and from speaking to everyone in the band, it has brought a lot of new energy, obviously with a young guitarist coming in, a very different style of guitarist. And with that, you can hear it in the music, and you can hear the virtuosity, how dynamic his playing is as well. So it has brought something different. But what I think a lot of fans have loved about what Kone's done is he's respected the legacy that Eamon has left as well.
Yes, he has.
Yeah.
He definitely has not stepped on any toes.
No.
In any situation like this, you got to look forward and what can Kone contribute? What will his part be on stage? How will he start to win the fans over, which I know he already has.
Yeah.
And one good thing about it, too, is that him being young, hopefully he's got many years ahead of him with the band, and he's going to build up his own following. And talking about Mr. Lordi, yeah, him and Eamon, when the band, of course, there've been band changes throughout the years. The constant until last year was Lordi and Eamon.
Yeah.
And now with Eamon gone, Mr. Lordi's the last original member. So he has done a great job of filling in those spots with great musicians, but also people with great heart, great character, who are pleasant to be around, who just enjoy what they do. And I've been around all 5 of them, and I just see it. And it just seemed like every time a new member came in, whatever the issue or anxiety or, bad blood or negativity that was there seemed to go away, and it was always a step upward.
Yeah.
And that's the way it felt. And, these people didn't know me when they first met me. Yeah, granted, they were probably told all kind of these crazy-ass fucking stories about this loudmouth American because through Tommy and, whoever was in the band, oh, yeah, sooner or later you're going to meet this guy, Ralph. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But, like, every time, and, some were a little more quiet than others. Like, when I first met Heasy, he was a little more shy and quiet. And he's like, my English isn't that good. I was like, don't worry about it, man. My Finnish isn't that good. But, we talked, and I was like, just starting to get, so how did you get into the band? Blah, blah, blah. And really, me and him started talking. Really, the first time was on the first 2 shows of the collection tour that I did with him, which I think was Stuttgart and Berlin. And then everything fell apart. But, every step has been a step forward. And it's just been melding into such a perfect unit, a perfect family that, when Kone came, and once again, I'm just watching, seeing how their interaction is. And it's just cool, like when we're just hanging around and Kone will just start goofing on, I don't know all the little riffs and stuff that he starts playing, but it seems like, let's say it's a Finnish children's lullaby or fairy tale song. He'll just start clipping on his guitar, and next thing the whole band is just laughing and giggling or like dancing along with whatever the hell he's playing. Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and next thing the band is. So it's just cool seeing that. It's not always business, but they're all getting along, and they're all working together. So it's fantastic to see that.
Kind of moving on to like the album side of things, you have obviously been involved with a lot of these radio theatre pieces now, the SCGs now, since the first time I guess we kind of heard you on an album was 2010 with Babes for Breakfast. So you've been involved with a lot of albums up to this point. And this character you play in this new one, Nosfer-Ruiz, we kind of see a more dynamic character than I think we have kind of seen before. I guess the closest would be kind of the Mad Rager Rockin' Ruiz on Collection. But on this particular record, as you were kind of talking about the influences there for your character this time around, you're kind of looking at old kind of 70s, 80s, maybe early 90s kind of magazine horror shows. The kind of one that kind of jumps to mind for me is kind of George A. Romero's Creep Show would be kind of the one that would kind of pop in my mind the most. But with your character, when you're trying to come up with this character and everything, as we're kind of talking about, visually speaking, is there any reference that you're trying to make when you look like Nosfer-Ruiz?
Okay, this was funny. Now this is a whole. This character now really had time. We really had time to formulate and start coming together. So once again, April, we start talking about the characters. So now that idea is out in the air. How are we going to flesh this character out? What's his name going to be? Because like I said, at first it wasn't Nosfer-Ruiz. We didn't have a name. So of course I'm like, okay, Ruiz the storyteller. And yes, I was thinking Creepshow also.
Yeah.
And I just started, in fact, the cool thing too is as I was taking notes for this interview, I grabbed a clipboard, and on that clipboard, which I found great, was the first reading or writing, jotting down of the new character, and it's a couple of cents. So this is the first idea for Ruiz, the storyteller, turned into Nosfer-Ruiz. Good evening, my disciples. It has been far too long since last we spoke. Meaning, last we spoke was 2020, as me being the Mad Rager.
Yeah.
For it is Ruiz, the storyteller. I have for you tonight tales of the most unimaginable evil and tales of bone-chilling terror. Tales that will make you die the most horrible of deaths. Come now and join me in this Arctic Circle gathering. We open with tonight's tale, Dracula, the Undead Birth. So that was my first writing of anything of an idea.
Right.
As you can tell,
yeah.
I'm still using Ruiz, the storyteller. Dracula, the Undead Birth was just something I pulled out of my butt because we didn't have any name yet for songs, but I knew it was going to be based on horror movies and, monsters and famous horror actors. So Dracula, the Undead Birth, why not? So that was the first. That was back in April of 22 that I wrote that down as an idea. Moving forward, I would say in May, we start talking about it more, me and Mr. Lordi, and he's like, we're going to go into the studio in June. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck. What the hell I got to do? I am coming. I am flying over to record this. Well, of course, another reason being is he's like, dude, Kiss is playing in Helsinki in a week after. I'm like, oh, crap. Fine, I'll be there. So I'm like, my whole plan now is to fly, to get there, to be part of the two shows. So this is working out great. The first week is going to be hanging in Helsinki for a couple of days, seeing everybody, working the two festival shows, going into the studio, doing my part as now this is where Nosfer-Ruiz is born. Then the week after, hanging out in Rovaniemi with him, his mom, and all the friends up there, and then going back to see Kiss. So I'm like, my 2 weeks is jam-packed with everything I love about Finland. Talking again, he's like, I've got it. I was like, the character's name is going to be Nosfer-Ruiz. And I'm like, that is awesome. And of course, now that he's saying Nosfer-Ruiz, is where all of a sudden I'm like, okay, maybe I should talk more like this, for it is I, Nosfer-Ruiz. And he's like, dude, that's excellent, yeah. So, bang, we come up with the idea. It's a broken Hungarian, broken Dracula. Good evening. Welcome to our program, for it is I, Nosfer-Ruiz. So that's how that started. And then that's when we started putting all together what I'd be saying. And that happened June 12th,
Right.
which was a Sunday. This was after the 2 days of the festivals. Now we're in the studio. Starting out, it was me, Tracy, and Mr. Lordi, and we're all just sitting down talking. All right, so what are we going to do? What are we going to say? We're going to introduce this horror show, and I'm going to say a couple of things. And also, too, is that he didn't know where on the album this intro would be. So the last thing I say is, we bring you. So I said every single album song title. We bring you Jane. So we bring you Unliving Picture Show. So I did every single one just in case wherever he was going to put that, I would say my part and it would segue or introduce that particular song. So yeah, so all I did, we bring you, and then I just inserted the name of each song. So we were covered on where we was going to put that. So of course now we've got that. We've got the first part fleshed out. Now the second part with the Actors Guild Award show. This is where you have 3 grown men. I say that very lovingly.
Biologically.
Trying to be as immature and childish as possible. Some people, just a quick jump forward, in the interviews have gotten the jokes and thought it was funny. A lot of them love the radio theater, and a lot of people just think, why the hell do they do these little stupid little, it breaks up the flow of the show or the thing, and what are they, moron little childish 5-year-olds? I'm like, yes, we are. We started trying to pull out every stupid little thing we can say. So what's cool about it, it's me, Mr. Lordi, Tracy, Hella, and Dylan Broda.
Yeah.
As you can tell now, there's an ongoing little radio theater troupe that Mr. Lordi has.
Yeah.
It's been us for really the last couple of albums. So far, me the longest, but I know Hella has been doing all the female parts, and I think she really started with sexorcism, but I know she's been involved with everything since, but she's definitely with the Lordiversity too. But yeah, so she's always been the main woman, and then Dylan has that great sort of like announcer voice where he was, the newscaster in Ruiz Massacre. He does a lot of parts for Scream Actors Guild too, so he started coming in, and we're thinking Jamie Lee Curtis, and no, we can't use her name, so we came up with Jamie P. Curtains. So it's sort of like a Jamie Lee Curtis, that she's going to be the host, and that is Hella. Then we started playing around with, Evil Dead. We made it Evil Bread, and the voice for that little snippet is Dylan. This bread tastes like shit. It's supposed to be like Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
The other one that I thought was funny was the Dyslexorcist.
Yeah, I love that one. Yeah.
A play on The Exorcist. So I'm like, by the powder of Christ, you complete me, which was supposed to be, by the power of Christ, I compel you, from The Exorcist. So at that moment, I'm playing Father Ruiz again, and Dylan is my, the priest next to me saying that I'm saying it wrong. So we just started having all kinds of fun trying to just say dumb shit. And then when it came up to the names of the directors, Juan Tantits, that was Dylan. We start laughing. I.P. Freely, I'm not sure if he got it from The Simpsons, but that was something that Bart, he'd call the bar. He goes, hey, I'm looking for this guy, I.P. Freely, that kind of shit. Yeah. So we're just talking all kinds of dumb crap to make up names for directors. And, that's how that all came about. One funny part, which I don't know if Mr. Lordi mentioned, but during the recording of the award show, I'm talking in my broken Hungarian, broken Dracula, and there's a word that I say, literally. I say it in there, and I'm like, do you know what's going to happen? I am going to kill you. I am literally going to kill you. I stumble on that word so bad because I'm trying to do it in an accent, and it just doesn't roll easy. No. So as soon as I'm done saying that sentence, and they cut, they start playing it back, and they just start laughing. Mr. Lordi and Tracy are laughing. And they're like, you know something? Fuck it. We're going to keep that in. Because now it has become such like an inside joke.
Yeah.
But it's not really inside because you can tell when you hear the word, if you understand what I'm saying literally, and you hear literally, they're like, he fucked that up. And then it's like, he fucked that up. Oh, yeah, we started laughing in the studio so bad. So it's always like a giggle. So we left that in. That's how that came about. Okay, and then also the character. How that started to flesh out was, like I said, we had the idea. Now I need a visual. And at the time, I didn't have anything. In October, I actually got a part-time job at a local haunted house.
Right.
So this worked out perfect. I end up getting a part of sort of like a priest, like a fanatic, heretic kind of priest. Are you familiar with the movie Nightbreed?
No.
Clive Barker?
No.
Okay. All right. So now that that's out there, this was one idea. So, people hearing this, you can Google it. Nightbreed by Clive Barker was a movie in the 90s, horror movie. The character Lylesburg, which I guess was the head of the Nightbreed, was like a priest or a monk, actually played by Doug Bradley, who played Pinhead in Hellraiser.
Oh, cool.
So the character, I don't look anything like this character, but he was a head monk priest. So this all worked out that I am this fanatical priest kind of preacher in a mausoleum, in a graveyard. So I'm spieling all kinds of nonsense. So I'm in a robe, this brown robe, and I've been letting my beard grow ever since Father Ruiz, because it really started working for the character. It made me look different.
Yeah.
And it was just a good touch for the upcoming characters. And in fact, because the reason why I started to grow the beard was that for the monarchy, I was supposed to be like a peeping Tom looking through the window, and I wanted to sort of look like a character out of the Devil's Rejects, kind of grimy looking beard, kind of shit like that. That never been, but the beard kept on growing, and I'm like, this works perfect for every character so far. Now I've got the idea in the robe. I started getting a necklace made of fingers and ears and eyeballs. I had a staff. So, and we had a makeup artist there at the haunted house doing this makeup. And all of a sudden I'm like, this is perfect for Nosfer-Ruiz. So what I started doing was, before we opened the doors, I would go into the mausoleum and I would start doing little video vignettes as if I was Nosfer-Ruiz to show Mr. Lordi.
Yeah.
And by this time in October, I had already heard the album. He had sent me all the tracks. So I don't know, this is, 6 months before it's coming out. I've heard it. I love it. And of course, I can't talk about it at all. So I was like, this would be perfect. I've got me walking through the mausoleum. Good evening. This is Nosfer-Ruiz. Thank you for joining me in this Arctic Circle gathering. I forgot what I say, but everyone who has been on LORDI social media has probably seen this little black and white video of me, Nosfer-Ruiz, talking about the upcoming album. And of course I go, we must wait. The new album comes out in 2023, but we must wait. We must wait. We must wait. So that little video. And I showed Mr. Lordi. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Like a couple of months later, he puts it out on social media. And I was like, that's great. But I was like, dude, if you would have told me, I would have, done more mannerisms. I was just walking through it and fleshing it out so, I can go back and watch it and see, okay, I got to, more mannerisms. I got to accent more. I was just basically, I almost felt like I was going, hi, people, this is Nosfer-Ruiz. The new album's coming out in 2023. You got to wait. That's how I felt I spoke. I was like, I would have gone back and I would have done in character. But he put it out. I'm like, all right, cool. So this is where now, I think that's the first time now we have Nosfer-Ruiz in the flesh. That little video.
Yeah.
So it's all starting to come together. Now I have an idea. Now he's out in the flesh. Now I've got a costume for him. So I'm asleep. I can't remember actually when this may have been. No, this had to be like in October because I'm still doing the haunted house. And there's not many people who call me in the middle of the night. And of course, the first person who I think of is going to call me is going to be Mr. Lordi because of, the 9-hour difference. So, Of course, I look at my phone and he's like, can you take a picture of you, like a pose in the Nosfer-Ruiz costume? Because I want to start drawing the new artwork. So I'm like, shit, I don't work for the next 3 days. I don't have the costume. I was like, okay, no problem. I'll make this work. I get into my bathrobe like at 3 a.m, kind of mess up my hair a bit. I didn't have all the necklaces and belt, but I sent him those pictures later. I mean, he could scribble that shit in.
Yeah.
So I'm in the kitchen in my bathrobe, and I just do like this pose, and I take a picture and I send it to him. 2 days later, he sends me the final picture, and that picture is the one that you've seen now of Nosfer-Ruiz horror show that is at the end of the Thing in the Cage video, where you just have this look that says coming up next, Nosfer-Ruiz. That picture is that's the picture of me that we use, and I think that was also on social media. We've got what I look like in person, and now we've got actual photographs of what Nosfer-Ruiz looks like. Moving ahead, February of this year is being in Finland again. This is where now Nosfer-Ruiz comes to life. And in the beginning of the Dead Again Jane video, everything that we've worked on, making this character from my first Ruiz the Storyteller to Nosfer-Ruiz, the host, comes to life doing the video. So this was the most involved and fleshed out character. Yes, besides the Mad Rager, DJ Rock and Ruiz on Collection, which was awesome because once again there, in the tour book, you see the character. I was doing vignettes out in the desert to promote the Scream stream, the interview with Jean Devois, going out on stage and acting the character. This is my second character now, Nosfer-Ruiz, that really fleshed out from idea to stage. And, it was so much fun and really cool, once again, to be involved doing that.
And then when you kind of look at the music video as well, I guess kind of the start of that video I know from speaking to Mr. Lordi, some fans have kind of misunderstood or not kind of grasped why your kind of intro section is at the start of that video and why it wasn't like that on the album. But of course, Mr. Lordi wanted to do it that way because that's how he wanted to do it, and that's what he was saying when we spoke. So on the music video, was it hard for you to kind of mime in those lines and add in the actions as well to go along with that intro section?
No, it wasn't hard at all.
Okay.
And what was really funny too is I was speaking to Mr. Lordi about it, and a lot of people of this day and age, with TV, you would have coming up next, blah blah blah, your favorite, I Love Lucy, and at 12 o'clock. Sanford and Son. Wow, this is aging me because I'm talking about shows I used to watch as a kid, but I remember that.
Yeah. But
before any of that is Nosfer-Ruiz horror show. So a lot of people thought that there was more going to be involved, like Evil Bread and The Exorcist. Yeah. They didn't understand it was sort of, just a fake, like a commercial before the new show.
Yeah.
So with Mr. Lordi wanting to promote this video, he wanted to add the Nosfer-Ruiz character. So once again, this plays in where it was perfect that at the end of me saying, we bring you, I said every single song title, because when I heard the album, when I first started hearing it, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I'm saying, Undead Living Picture Show. And I was like, I don't remember saying that. I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. So thank God we had that. No, it wasn't hard at all. Because basically I just had it on my phone. I had a clipboard, and I just wrote everything out again. Because it'd been a long time since I had said those lines. And in fact, what it was a couple of days before the photo shoot on Thursday, the 23rd of February, we did the photo shoot, the complete full day photo shoot. And then the 24th, we turned it over into the set for the video. So the 24th and 25th were very, very long days shooting the video. The 24th was all the band, starting off with that. And so I think probably around maybe 2 or 3 in the morning of Saturday the 25th is when, so I spent most of the day going over the lines, and, there is a section that was left out on the album. I say something tonight, not 1 nor 2, but 12 terrific tales, that we skip that. We pull that out, and I go into, I hope we can finish this marathon before sunrise, going into my words. So basically what I started doing was saying the whole speech in my broken accent, and then that's when I started to work with hand movements, what I was going to do. And at this time, Mr. LORDI started mentioning we're going to have 3 camera angles. 1 forward, 1 to the left, and 1 to the right. So he started telling me, okay, this part you're going to say in this camera. Second paragraph, camera to the right. Last paragraph, you're going to say it to camera to the left. So I started mimicking where I was going to look, what I was going to say, and this is when I started with the hand gestures, like, when I'm laughing, it goes, welcome to the Screem Writers Crypt. And when I say crypt, I make it like long, and I take my hand and like pull back. I'm like, crypt, doing all this. When I'm walking into the scene for the video, I'm almost like a Vampira Dracula entrance kind of thing where, my chest is out and I'm looking at the camera, head up and arm up. So I'm looking like that, and I just thought bowing to the crowd would make it seem more old worldly.
Yeah. Where
like today, you really don't see anybody bow. Good evening, how you doing? So I made it like I'm from another time, another era. That's where that comes in. The little chuckle when I'm saying, I hope we finish this marathon before sunrise. And then I get, tonight, getting back into it. And then, hold your crosses. The cross was a prop that came with the costume. I was going to hold up the bottle of holy water. No, I wasn't going to do that. I did want to have a handful of salt, but I was doing so much hand movement that it probably wouldn't work because, I put the cross to the front camera. Now hold onto your crosses and put salt on your windows and doors. And I wanted to like throw salt, but I'm like, it's probably not going to read well. And, then I wouldn't be able to do everything else that I wanted to.
Yeah.
So, once again, when I say, we bring you Jane, so I roll my eyes up into my head. And, at the time, Tommy didn't know what I was doing because he was still directing the band. So I'm in the other side, coming up with my own stuff in the mirror. I'm like, okay, this is going to work. And what was great, I'm like, Ed, I ran through it once, and he's like, that's awesome. That's perfect. And then, I was like, you got to get close up on me. He goes, because at the end, when I mentioned the song title, We Bring You, he goes, I'm rolling my eyes back in my head. And he saw that, and he's like, oh, yeah, I love it. So, yeah, that all just worked out. Mannerisms came very easy that day because now I'm in character. I'm seeing what we're doing. We had spoken about this character for months, so I already had an idea what I wanted to do. So when doing it in person, it was a no-brainer. And like I said, I just kept on saying those lines over and over again. The only issue that I had was before the video, of course they cut it down. It was like 26 seconds of that intro before the song Dead Again Jane.
Yeah.
Where I start talking, and I'm supposed to be walking in out of camera into the center. So I had to like figure out, like in those 26 seconds of that, how much or where out of frame I would be, that by the time I get to the center, that I'm talking, that I start talking, good evening. So it took a couple of times, me fucking that up, taking a couple of steps back, and then bang, finally got it. And then once I got into it, you know, I got the rhythm of what I was saying, that I can tell a couple of spots are like, okay, I might be off just a tiny bit, but, you know, if I step back and I don't look at my mouth, I'm looking like, holy shit, this is cool. Look at the set. Wow, look at this fucking guy. Blah, blah. I'm like, wow, it looks perfect. And his vision, Mr. LORDI's vision on what he wanted was just fantastic.
Yeah.
And it just worked. It just fell into place, and I got my shit done probably about a half hour. Sitting around all goddamn day, and they're like, okay, we're done for the night. I'm like, shit. Are you sure you don't want to do it again? But I was like, great. It rolled. It was just so smooth, and we were all happy about it. So
yeah,
that was definitely cool.
And then the last part, obviously, in that video, you're sitting there in your chair, your kind of directorial chair, I guess, and you're reading Lord Diary, and then this black and white Jane comes in and obviously kills you. Was that kind of originally there, or was that kind of thought up on the spot, or how did that come about?
No, that was how he wanted to end the video.
Right,
now,
okay.
here's the thing too, was that whole day, that Saturday, the 25th, was strictly for that scene, the kitchen scene or whatever, the dining scene, between the gravedigger character and Jane. And just a couple of days earlier, Mr. LORDI didn't have someone in that spot, so there was a good chance possibly that I was going to be doing that, which I was all for. But what I had to see is, how am I going to look different?
Yeah,
because it has to be. So, you know, I was like, okay, I'm going to slip my hair back, tuck my hair underneath my, you know, my collar, tuck my beard under my shirt, anything. And then, you know, maybe I thought once I saw the teeth and the eyebrows that Tracy ended up wearing, I was like, okay, cool. Maybe act different, maybe a little more jerky, like I'm a little free, like that kind of shit. Anything that I could do if I was going to be that character, to make the disbelief that it's not, oh, there's Nosfer-Ruiz as there's Ralph Ruiz. Now there's Ralph as, you know, the crazy psycho, you know, reanimator. Yeah. So I was thinking that, but then lucky enough, Mr. LORDI called Tracy, and Tracy was available. And I think, besides being a completely different person, which is great. So, you know, you don't have to think that I'm playing dual roles. You've got someone completely different. And he did a great job.
Yeah.
I love the way he did it. So the whole day was filming that. You know, we came in maybe 2 o'clock. We started in the afternoon. I wish we would have started earlier, but, you know, we're on LORDI time. Yeah. and the director, Mr. LORDI, had to be ready. And the great thing is, you know, he did everything storyboarded out. And we did it scene by scene in sequence. Because as you notice, Jane goes from, you know, just that dead look, no makeup. And as the video goes on, she starts to get a little more decrepit, a little more dead looking, until she's, you know, completely dead, zombified. And they couldn't film that in any other way than in sequence. So by the time she was completely dead and zombified, Jesus, we're looking like maybe 3:30 in the morning.
Jesus.
So, yeah, it was a long day, and I'm just sitting waiting for my part. Yeah. So they get hers done. And of course, now the whole idea is I'm sitting outside the studio where the band is playing, and I'm just waiting for them to finish up so that I can, you know, get ready to announce my, you know, next part. So my idea, in a sense, I mean, of course, it wouldn't work because it's a LORDI video, and I'm supposed to be like digging what I'm hearing. So I'm sitting there, I'm looking at my watch. I'm like, Jesus Christ, when the hell these monsters going to finish this goddamn song? You know, and I'm drinking my coffee, which it's really quick and it's not close up, but that is a Scarby coffee cup.
Yeah.
Which, if you guys are familiar, the last couple of years, they came out with, instead of Starbucks, they made a little sticker of Hella Scarby coffee. So I'm holding that there. So it was my idea to hold the diary. I'm like, why don't I hold the diary? You know, I was like, and they're like, tell me when. I'm like, dude, promotion, man. We got to sell. You know, so I'm sitting there reading the diary, holding it open, and the cool thing too is little Easter egg, because no one's going to know, but the page I have it open to is the picture pages, and it's the picture of me and Mr. LORDI where I'm wearing his makeup.
Yeah.
And that was on the Typo Negative tour. So I'm holding the book up to that page, and I'm sitting there like I'm reading. And, you know, like I look into the studio. I'm like, oh, God, hurry up. Jesus Christ, let's go. And then that was Mr. LORDI's idea of having Jane come alive and kill me. And, you know, I'm sitting in my director's chair, and I didn't have Mr. Ruiz on the back. So Mr. LORDI just ran into the dressing room really quick, got a Sharpie with a piece of paper, wrote that, put it on the back. I'm like, okay, now this is official. I sat there, hold up the book, and this is all his direction. I'm like, hold up the book, look into the studio, take a drink of your coffee, look at your watch, look at the book, be like you're a little annoyed that they're not done. All of a sudden, Jane taps me on the shoulder, she grabs me, and I turn around and I scream. And yes, that is my scream. And once again, another Ruiz character is killed off, and that's how the video ends. And I will tell you, all that time, sitting around for 15 hours, took about maybe 20 minutes to and that was the end of the video for Dead Again Jane.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So kind of before we kind of finish up and everything, I've asked pretty much everybody at this point that I've interviewed, when we're kind of looking at this album, we've obviously got lots of references to old classical 1930s Universal horror monsters, and I'm wondering, from your side of things, do you like those kind of old school movies? And if you do you have any favorite kind of old school Universal horror monster?
Yes. Well, growing up here in the States,
yeah.
You know, Halloween was always those kind of monsters. Yeah, growing up, I always loved Dracula, Wolfman, Frankenstein. We'd always have monster marathons here in the States. So I grew up with all of them. And then, of course, in the 80s, or 70s with Texas Chainsaw. But as a kid, I never saw Texas Chainsaw, or I never saw The Exorcist. It wasn't until the 80s where I was a teen, and like The Exorcist. Well, The Exorcist actually scared me shitless, and I wasn't able to actually see it without covering my eyes until well into my 40s. But growing up with all them, Leatherface, Nightmare on Elm Street, Chucky, all that kind of stuff, Hellraiser. So I just loved them all. Yeah. Growing up, it was always for me, it was always Dracula.
Yeah.
So like when I was in college, you know, if I had to do some sort of art, whatever, it would be a Dracula thing. Then it was Phantom of the Opera, where I got into that. This was way before the musical, just the whole idea about the mask and all that stuff. So Universal Monsters, growing up, watching all like the 50s B-movie horror movies, like I said, on weekends here in the States, you'd have the Zacharias, Svengoolie, or, you know, afternoon Hammer Horror on Saturday nights. was a big one from the UK.
Yeah.
Hammer Horror.
Yeah.
You got to be familiar with that.
Yeah, I am.
You know, it would be an animated 6-fingered hand that would come out of this river of blood, and it would sculpt the word chiller, theater, and really that was mostly all English from the Hammer Studios.
Yeah.
All those kind of Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing kind of horror movies and 60s, 70s B horror movies, and I watched all of that stuff growing up.
Right.
Every Saturday night was Hammer Horror or Chiller Theater. So, yeah, my whole life had been all around that. So I just thought it was super cool that finally, you know, Mr. LORDI was going to put an album out really around that. And when he started to think about what the characters would be based on, or when he showed me the first sketches of the album cover, and I saw him as Frankenstein, Hela as the bride, Mana, you know, as Dracula, Hisi as Blue Lagoon, and Garnet as the world, I'm like, holy fucking shit, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you really going to go all out with the costumes? And that's where he was like, yeah, kind of on some of them, because some of them are going to be a little too more involved to be a part. So I was like, but yeah, once he had that, I'm like, this is excellent, this is perfect.
Yeah.
And that's how that all came about.
Thank you, Ralphie boy, and may Nosfer-Ruiz rest in pieces. Join me next week for the final creature feature as we talk to the final horrific beast. Until then, Monster Maniacs, Nakani te vitum frikea.
Monstars of Rock, the LORDI Story is a true metal podcast production. The show is presented, produced and written by Matthew Kessie. Head to True Metal Pod's social channels to keep up to date with the production.